Salam alaikum. Good.
This time I'm gonna get pictures.
Give me over here.
He's the right pose.
Raise my hand.
Do one without your glasses.
Oh yeah, take.
I'm Alex Bell. Thank you. I'm happy to be here. Believe it or not, I've lived in Jackson 10 years, on and off of Ramadan as part of the Exactly. I'm like, name right here.
Okay.
Good evening. Good evening. Good evening. Just want to welcome everybody. My name is Savannah Willis. I'm your MC for the evening. Welcome to the International Museum of Muslim Culture's Interfaith Iftar. Ramadan Mubarak, everyone. And I'm going to come to you in the tradition of Islam, greetings of peace, assalamu alaikum, and also in the tradition of Mississippi. Hey, y'all. Like I said, I'm Savannah Willis. I'm an organizer with Working Together Jackson. I'm also a board member at Masjid Muhammad, who is a part of the Jackson Ward 2 Beloved community. And so we're very, very excited to be here. I'm very excited to be here and to be able to walk y'all through the agenda for the evening. Bear with me if I make any mistakes. But hopefully everything goes very, very smoothly. If y'all see me back waving, I'm gonna be responsible for keeping us on time, because in order to break fast in a timely fashion, we are gonna have to stick to the agenda. Everybody has an agenda in front of you. So to get started, I'm going to bring up one of our amazing imams from Masjid Muhammad. He is also our in-house comedian. Imam Shaheed is gonna come up and open us with a dua of prayer.
Good evening, everyone. About kids in solidarity. With the name of Almighty God, the merciful benefactor, the merciful Redeemer. Oh Lord, we thank you for giving us this opportunity to come together. We thank you for the favors that are too many for us to count. From the creation of this earth, this world, in which you have given us everything to sustain us, our physical needs, as well as our spiritual and emotional. We thank you for giving us life after we were dead. We thank you for giving us community life, for you have informed us that you created us different nations and tribes, not so that we may despise one another, but that we may learn from one another. We thank you for putting it in our hearts to want for each other what we want for ourselves. We thank you, we praise you. Bless us with a successful evening. Bless us with love and regard for one another. On this blessed Iftar night, again, we thank and we praise you. Amen.
Amen.
So, should I feel some jokes now? to the guy with the cane.
I guess I set him up for that one. Next, we're going to move on. We're going to bring up one of the illustrious co-founders of the International Museum of Muslim Cultures, Imad Al-Turk. He is an amazing person if you've gotten to know him. He is, if home is where your heart is, then this man must have too. He is a Mississippian through and through, but born in Palestine, and has carried engineer, CEO, amazing philanthropist, and for those who don't know, actually gave me my first legal job. And so I always think that it's kismet that we were brought back together. Allah definitely put his family in my life. So Imad Al-Turk, co-founder of the International Museum of Muslim Cultures, to tell us what Ramadan is.
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, by the name of God, most gracious, most merciful. I greet you and agree in peace. May God, let peace and blessing be with you. Assalamu alaikum. So I want to, I guess the task I was supposed to do is talk about Ramadan. So I want to just kind of share with you really what Ramadan is. So I want to give you in Ramadan. So this really has a special meaning. And of course, Ramadan is God's words. The Quran is God's words. This is what we believe is actually guidance to mankind. So the Quran did not come only to Prophet Muhammad, it came to mankind and humanity. So that's one significant component of it is actually that the Quran is revealed there. So you will see many of the Muslims actually read the Quran mostly they read the entire Quran during the month of Ramadan. Some actually read it multiple times. But the Ramadan during this fasting was prescribed on Muslims. This is what actually God tells us in the Quran. It was prescribed on Muslims as it was prescribed on the people before it. So obviously there's different variations of fasting in Christianity and Judaism and in other areas. So this is not new, but it's really a continuation of the tradition of fasting. So I want to talk really more about why fasting is important. So one of the elements that actually what fasting will do is actually a renewal, self-improvement programs, if we can put it like this, for Muslims. It's not only just about we're required physically to abstain from food and drink and any sexual activities from sunrise to sunset, basically every day, for a period of about 29 or 30 days, depending on the moon sighting. This is the physical part of Ramadan and the fasting ritual. But actually, if you do this and you backbite or you lie or cheat or you do all the things that God asks us not to do, then basically you've wasted your fasting because it's only about abstaining from food and drink, which is not really God's intent for the whole process. This is actually a period of spiritual renewal for Muslims. You will find that they will do extra prayers. They will spend a lot of time worshiping God during that time. But also it's a time for self-discipline. It actually provides a lot of discipline because not only because you don't eat and fast for sometimes eat and drink for sometimes it could be 20 hours depending on when the sunrise and sunset in a day. Sometimes it could be 15 hours depending on the time of the year when fasting happens. But more importantly, it actually gives you empathy. It gives you an area of relating to the less fortunate among us. That God requires of us to be charitable during the month of Ramadan. Muslims in general are, even Muslim Americans, there was a research that was done by the Pew Charitable Foundation that actually found that the Muslim Americans are the most charitable people in America. But God also asks us to be more charitable even during the month of Ramadan because of the multiple benefits that we get. Again, like I said, there's a lot of benefits, and Savannah's probably looking at the time, so I'm going to move quickly on this. So I want to tie this issue of charity and what really our responsibility to the process that's happening now in Palestine, and particularly in Gaza. And I'm going to spend a few minutes because of the humanitarian nature of this. So as many of you know, this war has been going on right now, although it's a continuation of what's been going on for the last 100 years. This did not start on October 7th. But the suffering of the Palestinians in Gaza we have not seen really in modern history. This is, we had in less than 6 months, we had over 120,000 people either killed, injured, or under the rubble that they cannot account for. 2.4 million people have been displaced. Many of their homes have been destroyed. So they even when the war ends, there is nowhere for them to go. Many of them are in tents. So I want to ask you during this holy month to actually provide whatever humanitarian support you can. So we have some flyers. We have an organization called United Hand Relief that has been providing a lot of support for the Palestinians. So be charitable during the month of Ramadan, whether you're a Muslim or not, because this is really is an area that people in Gaza desperately need. Many of them lost many of their families. There's many orphans. There's many families lost their kids. So whatever we can do to support, we appreciate it. So as we're walking with our staff, we'll probably pass a flyer, and there is a QR code on this. So please go ahead and just click on it and do whatever God aspire you to donate or to support the Palestinian people in Gaza. So I'm next on the agenda. So now I want to talk about really something that's very special for us as founders of the museum. I don't see where I call this thing over there. As founders of the museum now will celebrate our 24th year in business. We started in late 2000, and so we're very proud of the accomplishments that the museum have done over the years. But as founders, both Paula and Sababo and Karen and I, as families that started the museum over 24 years ago, we are most proud when we see our baby. Basically, we are growing and we're actually handing the leadership to somebody else. So as part of this succession planning for the museum, we've been actually planning for this for a number of years to make sure that we bring the RAC executive director to replace Okola in her current role as an executive director. And we couldn't be prouder than actually having a young woman over here, Asila Rashid. And I'm going to introduce her in a few minutes, but this transition is important for a number of reasons. Obviously we wanted to make sure that the museum is sustainable for generations to come. And we need some new energy, we need a continuation. We've done a lot of improvement over the years, but we need to continue this so we can sustain for the next 20-25 years, and hopefully Asila will hand it to somebody else in this process. So Asila, we've known her since she was probably 5-6 years old, maybe. She used to be in my Arabic class in the masjid there as well. So hopefully I taught you a little bit. But I'm so proud of Asila. Of course, Okola knew her a few more years than I did, since this is actually Okola's daughter. So Asila brings a lot of vitality. She is a wonderful person, but it's not only just because she is the daughter of our co-founder that she was selected. And actually, we went through a very exhaustive effort to actually find the right candidate. And Asila is the right person for a number of reasons. From her passion for justice, her interfaith work, her non-profit work that she's been doing now for 15 years, going on 15 years, running a non-profit entity in Atlanta. So she comes with very high credentials, but also understand the history and the context of why this museum is important and why we need to continue this legacy for the future. So we are very proud to have Asila as our new executive director. This is the first time that you all know about it. She's actually going to start with us officially Monday. Yeah, so welcome to the team. test her communication skills.
Well, first, I'd just like to greet everyone with Assalamu Alaikum, and may God's peace and blessings be upon each and every one of you tonight. I was not prepared to share words. I just wanted to just be present and be here and be with the community tonight. But I must say, I feel so full right now, which I know is a funny thing to say, as most of us have very empty stomachs. Sorry, Dan, I did the joke. All right. But yes, but full as far as just with what this room represents. Of course, for me, growing up, literally, here in Jackson, in our community here, our Muslim community, and then of course through the museum and its inception, all the way up to this point, that as we talk about the Beloved Community, project, I really was just thinking and reflecting that this institution, this space, and what has been created here, and each and every one of you are in the room, that this has been my beloved community for so long. It's just a part of my life and who I am. And so I'm just super excited to be coming back and being able to, I pray, offer, something or things of benefit, of growth for us. I'm probably bringing also half of the youth with me by way of my children. We're a bunch. So I'm just excited and looking forward to really just taking things, to a next level and another phase, and continuing the great work that has already been laid before us. And someone said tonight that no one's replacing Okolo Rashid. So I'm not coming as a replacement, because that is impossible, but definitely coming to, inshallah, God willing, just to walk in that path that has been tread before me by our families and co-founders. So I'm looking to each and every one of you in the room, and I'll be in touch, and I'll hopefully give everybody's contact information as well, but I'll be looking forward to us doing some things and building together. That was my cue. Y'all mute out the mics. That's really slick. Okay. Thank you.
So I just want to add a couple of things. Obviously, we have a new executive director. This doesn't mean that Paul and I are going to be disappearing. So Paul actually is going to have a new role. So she will be the director of the Islamic Thought Institute, which we're creating as part of the museum, and also the director of our Beloved Community Project.
If I told y'all that I used to work at the International Museum of Muslim Culture, I don't like to call myself a former employee though, because whenever I'm called to be of service to the museum, I'm always here. So we are going to move into the next portion, which is the Beloved Conversations portion. And Sister Okolo is going to introduce the panelists, but I just wanted to take a minute to introduce Sister Okolo, who is not only an amazing mother to her family, but a mother in the community. All type of employment has happened here. Sister Okolo actually offered me my job at the International Museum of Muslim Culture, introduced me to the Masjid community, and her husband, Zabab, who is also in the man in our community, is responsible for marrying me and my husband. So we are very close here. I would not be who I am without the guidance of Sister Okolo, and I've been honored to be able to watch her create the concept and all of the work and scholarly effort that has gone into the creation of the Beloved Community for Ward 2 here in Jackson. I got to be there right at the beginning of this project starting, and it's been an amazing journey to watch. So Sister Okolo Rashid, the other illustrious, equally illustrious co-founder of the International Museum of Muslim Cultures.
We God, mercy, mercy, I greet you in greetings of peace. Assalamu alaikum. Thank you, Savannah. Thank you, Imad. 40 minutes? 40 minutes? All right, but great. question. Okay, so I am really excited to have this conversation tonight with Ward 2 interfaith leaders on becoming a beloved community. I just want to say that the conversation really is going to be framed around two major questions. What do you see the beloved, building a beloved community? What do you see that, what does that look like? Why are you involved in the City of Jackson Beloved Community Initiative? And another component to that is what exactly do you as an individual and institution bring to this effort? So these are the questions that these illustrious leaders will be discussing. So I have a really hefty bios of all four of these leaders, but because of time, I'm just going to introduce them, and when they talk about the work and what they bring, they will talk more about themselves. First, we have right here beside me, Bishop Blake Hill. He is the South Central Diocese State of Mississippi leader. He is also his church is the Greater Mount Bethel Church of Christ Holiness, USA. I have next to him Rabbi Joseph Rosen, who is the rabbi for Beth Israel congregation here in Jackson, Mississippi. Next to him is Imam Ali Abdul Rashid, who is the resident imam of the Masjid Muhammad in Jackson, Mississippi. And next to him is Reverend Andy Andrews, who is, he has two titles. One is that he is the leader of the St. Christopher Episcopal Church, but he is also leading their becoming the beloved community. I don't know, but I think they might be the only one that I know of across the country that has the beloved community.
Right here in Jackson.
So, just a few little introductions. Introductory comments. And I don't know, maybe you might not be aware that on March 1 of 2022, the City Council of Jackson, along with Mayor Lumumba's lead, approved a resolution by the International Museum of Muslim Culture to, in fact, create or establish a City of Jackson Beloved Community. And so tonight, we're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about the work that we're doing as the visionary of this project. Before I get into the conversation, I want to acknowledge my powerhouse program manager, Najla Sharif, who is not with us tonight because she is out on medical leave, but just want to acknowledge her and the work that she's done in this beloved community. She has really and she looks just like Nigel. Nigel wears black and white all the time. So anyway, just want to lift up a couple of things about the beloved community, like what does it look like? So the beloved community is what we call a unique prophetic model of social justice that's really seeking to heal the city of Jackson, but also going across the state and across the U.S., right? We want to respond to Dr. King's vision for America. He really realized doing his great work, that America, in fact, had a disease within its spirit, is what he said. And he said that disease was creating a system that really undermines the human dignity of people through racism, extreme materialism, that means devoid of spiritualism, not just material things, but also devoid of spiritualism, and militarism. And he says that the only way that we as a nation are going to be able to conquer that is that we have to have a radical revolution of values and a profound restructuring of the society, right? And so Dr. King was not the only one that had a vision about a beloved community. The thing that we say within this project is, yes, the civil rights-led movement by Dr. King and all of those great other heroes that was in that movement, but also the African-American Muslim movement. Both those movements really represented the freedom movement. It was not just about civil rights. We needed civil human dignity that had been stripped away from us as African people. So, according to one of the scholars, said Dr. King represented that side of it and all of those others, but the African American Muslims represented a seeking of that inner dignity. And so we define inner dignity as inherent nobility, that's honor, worth, that born sense of leadership and self-governance that is deposited in every human being, but it can be erased almost if in fact we don't cultivate that. And especially if we tell a people that they're 3/5 human beings, and even though that's not in our language, it continues to perpetuate in our society. So that's why we're here today, is that Dr. King talked about the beloved community, but Muslims talk about the model community that was built and established by Prophet Muhammad over 1,400 years ago, establishing the first constitution in history, that many of the ideas that we have in our constitution here comes from that. But it was established between the Muslims and the Jewish community during that time. Later on, Christians and others, right? This peace agreement. So that's what the beloved community looks at. What can we, as we say that our beloved community is seeking to build dynamic, interfaith, and broad-based partnerships, right? To do this healing, to bring our community into a thriving, resourceful community for all. So what we're gonna do now is just move into our conversation. We're going to, again, acknowledge the questions that our guests, and all of these, and please let them know that at least 3 of these leaders on the stage are in Ward 2. And we've done some wonderful work, and I wish I had time to tell you that. And maybe I can at the end. But right now, we really want to get our guests in the conversation. So 3 of these leaders are from Ward 2, and that's other than Rabbi Joseph, but he's been a very important part of the leadership in the beloved community since its inception, right? So we wanted to make sure that all of the faith groups within the Ibrahimic faith for this particular discussion was in this conversation. So let's just start with, we don't have to start with Bishop Blake Hill. We can start anywhere, but if you'd like to start, do you need me to rephrase these questions? We'll just start with that.
We'll just start with that one. That's enough for the evening. Well, greetings and blessings to each and every one of you. In addition to my job as a presiding bishop of the diocese, I teach chemistry at Jackson State University. My PhD is in theoretical physical chemistry. And so since a child, I've loved science. And one of the things that I would submit to you, that the beloved community is not created by us. The beloved community was initially created by God. And the reason I say that is if you study nature, there's a word that keeps coming up, and this word is symbiosis. And symbiosis is basically two distinct organisms that have decided that it's better to work together than work apart. For instance, you're in a symbiotic relationship right now. Within your gut right now are bacteria that have decided that it is better to be in you and to let you do the hunting and gathering, and they'll be happy to do what they do. And in return, they help break down your food and make it easier for you to do that. At any given time, the bacteria get all riled up and say, we want to take over the body, then they suffer. And anytime we get all riled up and say we want to get rid of it, we suffer. And so by definition, symbiosis means that the two things have to work in conjunction with it. They're connected because they're better together in that regard. The reason that I'm a believer in the beloved community is I believe that humanity is the only one that has decided God's plan is wrong. And has decided that we are going to just go against the symbiotic nature of nature and decide that we're going to try to do these things separately. And I submit to you, anytime we go against the will of God, that is by definition sin. And so I think it is an absolute sin for us to not see each other and see that I have a vested interest in you, and to because the organisms that are symbiotic are not like one another. They are completely different. But they've decided that their self-interest, their ability to operate is tied with one another. And so even though we have differences, God has put us here on this planet in a symbiotic relationship that when you win, I win. When I win, you win. Yes. And sin will tell you that when I win, you must lose. And so you'll have foolishness like healthcare not for everybody, or living wages, racism, and people taking bodies and using labor. That foolishness, because we're going against God's plan. So I would submit to you that my definition of beloved community is that symbiotic relationship that God himself has created. And if we are ever going to be people of faith believing in that God, by definition, we've got to believe in beloved community.
This bishop lives in your ward.
Bishop Hill, I'm glad that you brought up your science background, because I was thinking a lot about experimentation and curiosity coming into the space today. I took one semester of chemistry in undergrad, and it didn't go very well. And I broke and burnt a lot of things in chemistry lab. But in chem lab, when you're going over the results of the experiment, you have to diligently document everything that goes wrong. And so it becomes not a barrier to success, but an inspiration for further curiosity. When in the Jewish faith we think about the story of creation and how there's this perfect day of rest when the world is completed, and then humankind on cue absolutely ruins it. It only takes a few chapters before God has to hit the reset button and flood the earth. And at the end of that story, we have God putting a rainbow in the cloud, something that's going to shine, a sign of renewed covenant with the dignity of all life in the world, that will shine with the vehicle that had destroyed life in the flood. And it's not only a reminder for all living things in that moment, it's also a reminder for God. There's questions that we raise about, did God learn from this incident too? Was the experiment of creation was something needing to be corrected that could be improved upon for further learning? And rather than looking at creation as absolute perfection, perfection is the consistent experiment and the curiosity to overcome that fear, to say, I want to make this better. To bring that energy communally, to say, we want to make this better. To look at each other as vessels of the dignity of eternal spirit, and to remove the barriers, those differences that sometimes shield that light from within us and within each other, and find ways to share that. And that's messy work. We get into arguments, confusions. We're living in an age of incredible technology that's also a source of incredible disinformation and misinformation. And when we come to speak to each other about our experiences in these lives, there are those moments where we bump up against each other, where we disagree, where we have those differences. But being a beloved community is having that curiosity to say, what are ways that I can take it a step further when there are so many barriers that want us to take a step back? And so with that curiosity comes that courage. That is something that I think we all can share with one another.
No wonder you're the heads of your various religious bodies. When I see the beloved community, I see a whole. I see a holistic existence. One of the side effects of living in a modern world is there's so much compartmentalized. I come from an educational background. And you have to teach the whole child. And so that's not like cookie cutter type existence, or type of approach. Jackson, Mississippi, as many other cities have been so the victims of partiality of those who have the reins of power. Unfairness, injustice. And by the way, in case you don't know, on the Supreme Court building, there's a relief at the very top, and Prophet Moses, peace be upon him, and Prophet Muhammad are enshrined in that relief. So, prophetic persons have been recorded to change our existence, to renew us, as someone said, a renewal. And this has to take place occasionally because we need to reflect, we need to look at our whole selves. And unfortunately, fear limits how people perceive others and perceive themselves. So when you think about the beloved community, we're talking about endearing persons, people who deserve to be respected. You have to look at the whole person. You have to look at the dignity. At least examine your own personal dignity and the dignity of others. And unfortunately, the world is so compartmentalized and it's moving so fast that the material benefits and progress seems to be the only thing that matters. You know, how much money you make, where did you go to school, what's your profession, what neighborhood you live in, how successful are your children. Whereas everyone doesn't fit that cookie cutter type of existence. Because fortunately for all of us, God will test us. And the religious community is well suited to help transform the world, because we have to project ourselves into what we are, what we hope to become, not based upon money, or not just based upon wealth and prestige, but based upon what God has commanded. So the vision that I see is one that includes dignity, the one that includes opportunity, the one that looks at the whole community, looks at the whole person, looks at the whole family, looks at the whole individual. Because a human being is the best. But if you don't come from certain advantages, you're treated like you're the worst. And that's very unfortunate. But for religious leaders, we are to project into the world what God has commanded. And then our personalities and characters will evolve and will be emitted from that.
It's great to be surrounded by your heroes. It's great to be surrounded by your heroes and such wisdom. I'm thinking about so many things. One is that today is April 4th, 1968, 56 years ago, Dr. King, who did introduce the concept of the beloved community, even though a philosopher about 100 years before him talked about this egalitarian place where humans, communities would thrive, that all human beings needed was to be set free to find their freedom, and the fusion of how beautiful God made each of us would just happen. And to know that Dr. King was shot on a balcony, it's just fascinating how we're here today, and how because of grace and strength and faith and kindness and heroes like all of you, the world is not in a bigger mess than it is. Someone said to me that you're an optimist, and the one I've given my heart to is Jesus, who I saw believed in the goodness of everybody. He was called a beloved of God, and it seemed like with him recognizing that own dignity that Sister Okolo so well puts, and he went out and told everybody about it. And the big mistake he made is that he said we were all sisters and brothers. And so the power structure, if he wouldn't have said that, I don't know if the power structure and the government and the religious leaders would have killed him. But he said that we were all equal children of God. So this idea of beloved community is where everybody can just be themselves, to catch up with themselves. The exhaustion and the wounds and the tiredness and just the many years of life, finally discovered that God hadn't ignored them at all. That God has been with them every step because we're all children of the Most High. The Episcopal Church, which I practice my faith in, is claiming that it has been a white space and it's boring. It's sterile. Beautiful things don't grow there. It gets frozen. It doesn't thrive like a beloved community. So we've adopted 4 spiritual practices. Telling the truth, proclaiming the dream, repairing the breach, and practicing the way. And it's the symbol of a labyrinth where you walk in and you can't get lost if you keep on walking. You go in and you come to a spot and then you walk out. And there's purification, there's illumination, there's a revelation, and then it's unification. After you've been purified and you see light, you become more of yourself. As Maya Angelou said, once you know better, you do better. And white supremacy has been the poison. And I know as a white male, just how soulless it can become when you think you're better than someone else, especially another child of God. So it's all freedom on every end, either economically or spiritually. It's not about being indifferent about anything. It's about, as Dr. King said in his letter, be extremists in love. And how we all do that's going to all look different, but it's telling the truth. And it seems like in Mississippi, we're starting to learn from our mistakes more, especially I know people who identify white like me. Oddly enough, I'll just tell you all, I did my DNA sampling. 23andMe. If you don't want to be surprised, do not do that. So my family comes from Liverpool, England, and Ireland, and Germany, and France. And then the next generation, it goes to Scandinavia. So I was the descendant of a drunk Viking. And then somehow it goes to the Congolese, and it goes to Angola in the 3rd and 4th generation. So what you see here is not what you get. All right. This all dissolves according to our tradition, and something bigger that's a part of us goes on. So the beloved community is a place where truth happens, the dream is spoken, and once you tell the truth, and you know the nightmare you're in, and once you stay the dream where God desires God's children to be, then you can repair, you can do reparations, you can build a bridge from the nightmare to the dream, and just practice the way of love. I'm from Greenville, by the way, and I love being in Jackson because cool things like this happen. So, thank you.
Andy is in Ward 2.
I'm in Ward 2.
Okay, I think we got about 10 minutes. That is what exactly you, as an individual and institution, bring to this
Yes. Being a part of this organization strengthens the organization I'm a part of. Being a part of working together, Jackson, which is a broad-based community organizing, makes the community St. Christopher's Episcopal Church on Beasley Road, right next to Callaway High School. It makes our organization better. I believe it's the 21st century that we're in, and I think we're looking looking more about who has the skills to be themselves. Howard Thurman says, don't go out and do what others tell you to do. Do what makes you come alive, because the world needs people who have come alive. So that's why I do this. That's why I do this, and that's why I get to be with all of y'all. And if it was in a homogenous group, I wouldn't be coming alive. I'd be getting scared. I'd be getting scared if it's all just a bunch of white folks in the room. I've learned not to trust that. And I say that with respect and humility. I've learned not to trust that. So.
What was the question?
Why are you involved in the city?
Why am I involved?
Yes, and what exactly do you as an individual and institution bring to this effort?
Well, I should say that we're involved because we want to see the transformation happen in Jackson. Jackson is a cool place. I grew up in Jackson. I was born in Jackson. It's very necessary to grow and to develop. But unfortunately, there have been forces that favor one group through laws and policies to hinder the growth and development of other groups. And Dr. King said that we have a moral responsibility to fight against that. We're involved because there's a tradition in Al-Islam, when you come into a place, you leave it better off than it was when you found it. And we're involved. We want to bring Al-Islam, which has been marginalized to some extent in America. But on one hand, you know, the gate is wide open. But if you've been beat down for so long, you might go up to the gate and like the animals come to the electrified fence and just stop and freeze, you know, and don't grow yourself. And the vision for the beloved community, the beloved community, the endeared community, the respected community, is the vision is huge. It's a huge vision. The former president of Liberia, the first female president they had, Madam Sirleaf Johnson, said if your vision doesn't scare you, it's not big enough. And I'm honored to be here, and what we bring to the table is the belief that we're going to live and we're going to die. And we have to do something in between living and dying. We have to make a contribution. We have to be real men and real women.
Listening to people, not just inferring and analyzing on your own. And when moving down here, to want to figure out how they can remain together, to learn more about each other so that when the tough times get tough, we know each other's needs. And that comes from that very just basic, easy, accessible space for all of us to enter into conversation. And so I'm here, and I hope my congregation will follow me to want to get to know people and want to get to know our neighbors.
So real quickly, let me tell you, I'm going to try to do this in about 60 seconds, y'all. The thing is, there are three things that make me mad. I haven't been delivered yet from everything, y'all. There are three things that make me mad, and two of them the beloved community helps me address. The first one that makes me mad, I hate short jokes. I hadn't been able to get over that. You can't help me with that yet. There's something I'm going to have to deal with that. But there are two things that bother me that make me mad, is that's ignorance and powerlessness. I hate not knowing. I hate, the fact of not being curious. And my walk through the museum, Sister Cola just opened, it was amazing. But the third thing is powerlessness, and that's something that really bothers me. And that's because people think they got power over me. And when people think they have power over me, I have a problem. And so I believe that every person has been deposited in them a small bit of humanity's power. And when power comes together, when humanity comes together, when groups come together, they can exert that power over those that think they have power. For instance, next week, the 16th, the group of us are working together, Jackson, are going to come together, and we're going to go down to the Capitol. You can sign up for it at the table. I'm sure it's over there for you. But we're saying that the group that has said Medicare expansion is not going to happen, we're going to say we're going to put power together, and we dare you to tell us no. And that only comes by relationship of power working together with people who may not always agree, but we agree on power. And so y'all are helping me. What I bring is my little bit of energy to it, but what I get out of the beloved community is maybe you can help me with my short problem there. But the second thing is ignorance. I'm learning something from you. And last thing is power. Together we can get power.
We've gained something from this. I know I have gained a lot, and I'm very inspired and motivated. I'm going to close out with a couple of pieces. I want to quote something that Imam Worthy Muhammad said, who is the transformative leader for the African American Muslim movement. He says, well, first of all, we believe, she believes that human dignity is fundamental for changing ourselves and our lives in such a way to build the beloved community. So Imam Muhammad said that human dignity is like a seed. If you lose the seed, no life. And we as human beings have lost what it means to be human. That's why we're seeing what's happening across the world. We got to restore that. That's a part of what this conference is about. Last point. Dr. King talked about what a genuine revolution of values look like. He said, our loyalties become ecumenical and interreligious. Every nation must now develop an overriding loyalty to mankind as a whole. This calls for a worldwide fellowship that lifts neighborly concerns beyond one's race, class, national borders to an all-embracing and unconditional love for all mankind. I am speaking of the force of love which all of the great religions, he named them, Hindu, Muslim, Christian, Jewish, Buddhist, have seen as the supreme unifying principle of life. That's what we seek to gain in our beloved community movement.
That was an amazing discussion. I was over here taking notes, so thank you all for imparting some great wisdom, some great quotes, giving some context to the beloved community that we are creating together here in Jackson. And so I'm going to call Imam Shahid up in a second for the call to prayer. We are going to end a little bit early. That way everyone has time to prepare and watch to get ready for prayer. Prayer is going to take place in this room right over here. So feel free to make your way over here. Guests that are not praying, you all can go ahead and start eating while we make prayer. I just want to shout out.
Yana comedian cik.
And against the people. I'm speaking for myself, I'm hungry, don't y'all eat all this food.
Okay, no, I got it.
And I'm gonna give you a to-go plate too, so. So you want me to keep going? We did a whistle today. Those of you who don't know what it is, that's the washing of the deceased body. The brother passed away yesterday, and Janazah tomorrow, so after Juma, there will be a Janazah at 2:30. So those of you who are able, please attend. Lastly, before they left, we spent some moments outside reflecting, and I was telling them about a brother, something kind of said made me think about Brother Kamal Rashid. May Allah have mercy on his soul. And what a brilliant brother he was. We talked about how, as kids, we used to see him coming and we would run. We were terrified. And so they went to Puma, I read a lot about him, and I said, yes, he reminded me of Puma. He was a solid brother, very cut, but we thought he was the meanest thing in the world. You know, but he was a beautiful spirit, and he was taking our zone, and he went to Vietnam, came back, all the guys in my neighborhood went to Vietnam, we came back, and we got gunned down. Some of them killed themselves, some of them committed murder, suicide, the war really messed him up. But he came back and settled again, and lived this beautiful life as a Muslim, got married, worked in a bakery, and he told me the story. The beauty of him was he was one of the funniest people that I ever met. So I'm going to share this same story that he told us. So it could be true, but I don't know. But he said there was a guy who wanted to get out of the service. So he decided to, well, he praised him. So he put on his face and put his jacket on. He got his M16, he put a bayonet on it, he had a bazooka, grenades, 45, flares. He had everything that you could put on parachute. And he walked into the CO's office, and the CO's in the office. He walked into him all wild-eyed, saluted him. He said, sir. He said, yes. He said, I'm ready to fight. He said, I'm ready to parachute behind enemy lines and ambush them and sneak up on them from behind and turn them under the ground and bum them and stab them and shoot them and gouge their eyes out. I'm ready to kill.
Don't do it, bro.
He said, you're crazy. He said,
Actually, you should talk to folks, especially from the Institute of Southern Georgia Fire. Their house is not their employees and respect. And then right in class, she was.
And I was just saying,
Okay.
I am very excited. I've had to cook for it. It was delicious. So if you need to save the vegetarian, I love vegetables.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
don't want to but everybody, you gotta be hard. And we showed her this Siri in your car, well, right. So she didn't realize that was the phone. She thought that was the car. So a couple of times, she would go out in the car
So there are three kind of geographical places